Cruise lines are rolling out major changes for 2026, some that might actually benefit you and others that will hit your wallet hard. New loyalty programs, surprise fees, and even big changes to what's included on board. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, I cannot remember a year where cruise lines have announced so many major changes. Now, some of these have already taken effect in the last month or so, or are going to be taking effect in the next couple of months, and others are going to be having an impact in the year 2026. Now, depending on how you look at things, some of these changes are going to be terrible, but others may actually work in your favor. Either way, make sure that you stick around to the end, because some of these could completely change the way you cruise. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe if you haven't done so already. I would love to have you here within the Life Well Cruise community. Let's get started. All right, let's start off with a big change that is due to be implemented in 2026 that when first announced, definitely did get a negative reaction from cruisers. However, we do have some recent news, and this is about cruise loyalty programs and how they are changing in 2026. Now, depending on your preferred cruise line, this can have an impact on how you earn perks and status going forward. Now, I think we'll start with some positive news, and this was a recent announcement by Royal Caribbean Group that they have a new point system that is called Points Choice, where you as a cruiser are able to sail with any of the Royal Caribbean Group brands and earn points towards the cruise line of your choice. Now, this is pretty cool because if you have a higher loyalty status with Royal Caribbean and you decide that you want to take a celebrity cruise or even a Silver Sea cruise, then those points can still go to your Royal Caribbean Crown and Anchor. And if you typically sail with Celebrity and you decide maybe to take a Royal Caribbean cruise and bring the grandkids, then you can apply those points towards Celebrity's Captain's Club. Now, while Royal Caribbean Group did make a change of sorts over the last year, there has never been a point system that has been this flexible. And it really does make their loyalty programs feel more connected. Now, just to note, this only applies to cruises after the launch date in early 2026. But I'd love to hear what you think. Would you like to see other cruise lines doing something like this? Please let me know down in the comments below. Carnival Cruise Line, Carnival Rewards. Now, this change is a little bit more controversial. Carnival is replacing their long-running VIP program with something called Carnival Rewards, launching June 1st, 2026. Now, the big difference, instead of earning status based on cruise nights, it'll now factor in how much you spend, both on fares as well as onboard purchases. You'll earn stars towards your tier status and points that you're able to redeem for things like onboard credit and discounts. Now, in fairness, there are some people that love this because there are actually different ways that you could earn these loyalty rewards besides time on the ship. But others feel like it's actually making earning rewards harder for those who take shorter cruises or are on a budget. Now, if you're Platinum or Diamond now, Carnival says that you'll keep that up until the new system launches, and anyone reaching Diamond before June 2026 will keep their lifetime Diamond status, which, by the way, is a recent change that Carnival made after hearing guest feedback. Now, for cruisers that have been sailing for years, this is definitely a major shift, and one can't help but wonder if other cruise lines are going to take a look, see how this goes, and consider making changes to their own programs, tying in not only time spent at sea, but money spent as well. I am curious how you feel about loyalty programs. Personally, I do play the field a little bit, but I really do want to hear from you. All right, that covers loyalty perks. Now let's get into something that's a little bit less rewarding and will actually cost you more. New cruise fees and extra charges in 2026. Now, as much as cruises are a good value and cruise lines love to tell us how much is included, the fact is that we're seeing more and more little extra charges creep in. All right, let's start with the latest. Norwegian Cruise Line is charging $5 extra for an additional entree in the main dining room or included restaurant. Now, to be fair, Norwegian Cruise Line is not the first cruise line to implement something like this. In fact, MSC has really the same thing. And Carnival has something similar, although you're able to order 2 entrees or main dishes on Carnival, and it is only $5 extra when you get to a third. And just to reassure everybody, you are going to have enough to eat, because really you can order as many appetizers as you want and desserts as well. And of course, there are other casual restaurants as well as the buffet that you can still eat at. Now, Norwegian Cruise Line does say that this is something they're doing in order to reduce food waste. But of course, many cruisers say that this is just another way to nickel and dime the cruise passenger. And keeping in mind, this was something that was included. So for a lot of cruise passengers, they say, I just don't like the idea of any cruise line taking something that was free or included away. Norwegian Cruise Line and Great Stirrup Cay. Now, I am going to be talking about Great Stirrup Cay a little bit later in this video, and that's definitely a positive. There are some great things to come. But one of the changes that is not that positive, at least until we get a little bit more information, is the fact that the beverage package that you may have on board your NCL cruise, well, it is not going to work on their private island. Instead, they are going to have a special package that is going to be available for purchase for Great Stirrup Cay. Now, don't worry, there is still food and drinks like lemonade, iced tea, and water available on the private island. But if you want to have any additional drinks, you are going to have to dip into your wallet for that. A new room service charge. Now, just to let you know, I often talk about room service on a cruise line and the fact that I think almost every major cruise line includes complimentary continental room service breakfast that is delivered within certain hours in the morning, and it's free or included. And of course, we do have some premium cruise lines or luxury cruise lines that include more than that. They'll actually include room service included, well, for the entirety of the day, or at least until the early evening. But Norwegian Cruise Line actually does have a fee. It's $4.95 for breakfast, and I think it's $9.95 for room service delivery during the rest of the day. But they have since made a change, and it is to the room service where there are now limits on the amount of food that you can order per delivery. Now, this has been reported by cruise passengers who have sailed recently on Norwegian Cruise Line, and what they say is that the rule on board was that for breakfast they could order 1 hot dish and 1 cold dish per person, and during the rest of the day they could order 2 hot dishes and be charged that 1 delivery fee. Royal Caribbean's childcare fees are increasing. Now, over at Royal Caribbean, these new charges are going to hit families with young children the hardest. Now, just to let you know, the Kids Club is still included, but when it comes to the late night Kids Club, as an example, Adventure Ocean from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., it is going to be $15 per hour per child, which is up from $10. Now, to put this in context, when I did sail with my kids on Royal Caribbean back the first time in 2005, it was actually $6 per hour then. So I think with inflation, $15 is probably reasonable. But still, if you have kids on board and they really want to go to those late night parties, or you're going out for date night, it can add up, so it is something to budget for. All right, switching gears just a little bit. If you're a Virgin Voyages fan, there are some changes. Well, I guess we'll have to see how they do pan out, but these changes are definitely making waves. So the first up is that Virgin Voyages no longer is all-inclusive when it comes to the gratuities. Yes, with Virgin Voyages, they really shook things up by including Wi-Fi and soft drinks, specialty restaurants, and yes, the crew gratuities. All that was included in one inclusive fare, but this is no longer the case. Gratuities are now a separate line item. They are $20 per person per day if you pay them in advance, so if you prepay your daily gratuities, or $22 per person per day if you pay them on board. Unfortunately, one of the things that people loved about Virgin, no tipping, no surprises, is gone. And now you do have to factor in an additional $140 to $150 per person for a 7-night cruise into your budget. That said, it's important to keep in mind that the actual cost of the cruise probably hasn't changed. It is just separated in this way. Now we have a second major change for Virgin Voyages, and this is a new type of pricing called Voyage Fare Choices. Now, how does this work? Well, starting October 7th, 2025, Virgin is switching to a brand new fare structure called Voyage Fare Choices, and instead of one simple everything included price, you'll now choose between 3 different fare levels, each with different perks and flexibility. Now, the base is the more affordable option. It still includes standard Wi-Fi, dining, and entertainment, but there are fewer booking perks and limited flexibility for changes and cancellations. Next, you have the essential fare, and this includes faster Wi-Fi, earlier dining reservation access, and a bit more flexibility if you need to change plans. And then there's premium. This includes premium Wi-Fi, priority dining reservations, more onboard credit, and the most flexible cancellation terms. Now, Virgin says that this makes pricing more transparent and easier to compare with other cruise lines. But it also means that guests are going to have to pay special attention to what is included in the price of their cruise, and something very practical like when can you make your onboard dining reservations online before your cruise. Now, I am curious about your thoughts on this. I've really enjoyed Virgin and how easy and uncomplicated it felt. And, it's really just been implemented. So I think we'll have to give it a little bit of time and get some feedback. But even for myself, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it. So please let me know your thoughts down below. And if you've actually booked a Virgin Voyages cruise with this new fare structure, what do you think? All right, switching gears, I'll tell you, there is something for everyone in this video because Princess Cruises is lowering their cruise fares, but there is a catch. Yes, if you are somebody who has booked cruises with Princess before, you will know that in the past, most of the time when you booked a cruise, your deposit was refundable. And of course, up until the final payment date. Now, while a refundable deposit is still available, Princess Cruises did make a change and they are now making a non-refundable deposit as the default. The good thing is this is going to come with a lower price. And in most cases, if you book the non-refundable fare, the deposit is going to be lower than if you book the refundable fare. Now, this might be new to Princess, but to be fair, this is not new to every cruise line in the industry. In fact, Royal Caribbean and Celebrity have been doing this for a few years. Now, is there any benefits? Well, anecdotally, travel agents do say that they will likely get less placeholder bookings this way. And that frees up cabins for cruisers who are ready to commit. Now, of course, there are others who say that they loved the fact that they could put down a refundable deposit with Princess and they wish they wouldn't change. All right, now for a change that I think we can all agree is pretty terrible. And this is the fact that tourist taxes are going up in 2026, and this is going to affect cruisers. Now, cruise fares might look about the same for 2026, and maybe hopefully we'll even see some lower fares here and there. But what we might not notice is the fact that built into the price, there are additional taxes and fees that destinations and cruise ports are implementing that are passed on to us. Now, most of the time, these tourist taxes or fees are relatively small, so they don't really impact our budget, but there is a big one, and that one is Hawaii. Beginning January 1st, 2026, Hawaii will implement a new cruise passenger tax. How much? Well, about 14% on the portion of your fare for the days spent docked in port. Now, cruise lines like Norwegian and Disney have already started to warn their guests of increased costs of anywhere from $50 to even $500 per person, depending on the itinerary. Now, this is meant to fund environmental and tourism programs, but it is one of the largest new travel taxes that we've seen in years. In fact, it's so major that the cruise industry, through CLIA, has actually filed a federal lawsuit, arguing that the tax violates federal maritime law. Now, while we don't know the end result and if there will be changes, it is important to factor that into your budget and make sure it has some flexibility if you are booked or if you're considering booking a Hawaiian cruise. Now, there are other tourist taxes around the world that will affect cruise passengers. In Mexico, there's a new non-resident tourism tax that was added in 2025 and is going up again in 2026 from $5 to $10 US per person, depending on the port. You won't see it itemized, but it is already rolled into your fare. Now in Greece, we have the cruise visitor tax, which continues through 2026, charged per person per port. Now this does actually vary per season, where it's 20 euros in the summer and only 4 euros in the winter. In Amsterdam, there's a day tourist tax from between 11 euros to 14 euros. And coming back to the Caribbean, the US Virgin Islands, the port fee is rising by approximately $3 per passenger. Cruise lines are leveling up their private islands and destinations. And while on the most part, I think that this is really very good news and some good changes for 2026, I know that there are a couple of things that are going to be viewed a little bit less positive. All right, so starting off with Great Stirrup Cay. Now in summer 2026, Norwegian Cruise Line is opening a massive 6-acre water park with 19 water slides, a lazy river, and new dining and bar areas. Now they're also building a new pier and dock that I think is actually going to be ready before the end of the year. And for anybody who is not a fan of tendering, it's going to be faster and easier to get to and from the island. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you have the Moretti beverage package on the cruise ship as of March 1st, 2026, this is no longer going to work on the private island. Royal Caribbean's Royal Beach Clubs. Now, we actually have several of these that are going to be opening. And just to let you know, these are not private islands. And I think there's been a little bit of confusion about that. So these are still Royal Caribbean destinations. So they've invested in these, but there is an additional cost to this. And you have to think of it a little bit like if you were going to any other beach club or almost like an excursion. Now, the first one that is going to be opening is the Royal Beach Club Paradise Island in Nassau, Bahamas. And if you've been to Nassau within the last year, you likely have seen the construction right across the harbor. Now, guests will have to purchase a day pass, and my understanding is it's approximately $170 per person for an all-inclusive package that includes food and drink. Now, heading a little bit further away in summer 2026, we have the Royal Beach Club Santorini in Santorini, Greece, that is opening. Now, the day passes are already being sold on Royal Caribbean's website, and reports say that they are running at about $280 per person for an adult, but they are on sale at the time that I'm filming this, resulting in a price that is closer to $200. And by the way, if you are sailing with children, children are also welcome at the beach club, and there is a lower price for them as well. And very exciting, in late 2026, we have the Royal Beach Club Mexico that is opening along the west coast of Mexico. Now, these destinations are surely going to be stunning, but of course the criticism is that there is an additional cost. So please let me know what you think. Should cruise lines be building more exclusive destinations? And are you okay with the additional cost? Please let me know down in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now and happy cruising.